Deer Park, Al Lang Stadium, the Mahaffey Theater, Salvador Dali Museum. All this points of interest on any given day in St. Pete. This weekend, though, part of the sight lines, the markers, the rhythm of a lap around here. A left-hander into turn 10, down Dan Weldon Way, line, palm trees, $1 million yachts. Should be a very fun one here in day 2 in the streets of St. Pete, Nick Yeoman.
Both of those guys have just fantastic views of one of the prettiest parts of this country here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Airport runway. Got the water to the driver's left now as the field of 9 comes out of turn 14. 2 by 2. We await the green flag. It's Pato O'Ward on the point. He'll grab that top spot. Colton Herta immediately pulls over to driver's right to draft with O'Ward. Now Herta pops to the outside. He's going to look for the lead. Great move by Herta as O'Ward goes up and over the curbs, and Colton Herta is going to take the lead. Further back, Aaron Tielitz and Victor Franzoni, a little wheel banging. A couple cars slowed up, and we've got a couple slowed at the very back of the field. That's Franzoni, and it is Tielitz. Tielitz's car heavily damaged at the exit of turn number 2. The rest of those cars, the 7 of them though, Jake, make their way through turn number 3.
Big winner there. Santi Urrutia moves his way up into the 3rd position. Leaders already around now through turn number 7. It is Colton Herta at the point. He starts to extend now about a 5-car length advantage over Pato O'Ward.
And we have a full course yellow as Aaron Tielitz's day of redemption ends in turn number 2 with heavy left rear damage as that car is pinned up against the wall. The AMR IndyCar safety team is there. Boy, Anders Krohn, this is an absolute disastrous start to the season for that young man.
Yeah, what heartbreak for Aaron Tielitz. I feel so bad, and I only had one view of exactly what happened there, but what it looked like to me is that Victor Franzoni was trying to go 2 or 3 wide into turn 2, all the way on the outside here of turn 1, then tries diving it in super deep into turn 2 and just drives into the back of Aaron Tielitz, turns him around. And what I feel horrible for Aaron Tielitz, because that is genuinely none of his doing whatsoever. He got tagged from the back there from Victor Franzoni, and on board here with Victor Franzoni, and you'll see Victor just drives over the curb and then jumps into Aaron Tielitz. So yeah, absolutely nothing Aaron Tielitz could have done there, and that is heartbreak.
Joel Sebastianelli for Victor Franzoni, the other party in that accident. He has brought that Soul Red Mazda to pit lane and into your view.
Well, the good news for them, they're not going to go a lap down. It doesn't appear as though there's any damage besides a minimal issue with the front wing. So the guys were already rating with the new front wing. They put it on and away he goes. That was only about a 15-second stop.
Boy, Steve Wittich, I mean, it was an incredible story for that Velarde team to work overnight to get that car to get put together and ready to race. That is just heartbreaking to see it all end in the second quarter of this race.
Yeah, it really is, and it's uncharacteristic, and like Anders said, that's definitely not Aaron's fault. But Aaron's one of those guys. I think I did a stat over the winter where he has 3 DNFs in his entire 80-some race road to Indy career. And I think 1 was because of contact and 2 were because of mechanicals. 2 days in a row to have this kind of bad luck is unreal.
So going to be a nice little cleanup there in turn number 2, where Aaron Tielitz's day has come to an end in a 2-car accident involving Tielitz and Victor Franzoni. Those drivers started side by side in road number 2. Up front, Anders, what a move by Colton Herta, though. I mean, he played that start about as perfectly as you could, using the draft and then ducking out and getting around Pato O'Ward. We'll talk about that pass for the lead at the start of the race here in just a moment. But let's go down to pit lane with Rob Howden. I'm sure a very, very dejected team owner.
Yeah, with Brian Belardi from Belardi Auto Racing. Brian, you know what? You didn't want to see that happen. Obviously not Aaron's fault whatsoever, but I think even though he's out of the race, what we can talk about now is just the absolute dedication of your squad. Here at midnight last night to rebuild a car that they got from Carlin. It says a lot about this crew.
Yeah, no, they did an outstanding job. We also had a lot of help from Trevor Carlin and Colin Hale from Carlin, and Greg and Brent Boylan from Arms Out Motorsports to provide transportation. That's just really disappointing to see after how hard these guys worked.
Talk about your emotions on this right now. I can see it in your face that you just kind of gutted here right now.
Not happy. I can't say what I'm thinking.
Not a lot to say for Brian Belardi, Nick Yeoman. You can tell he, from his voice, from his face, just so much disappointment and probably maybe even a little bit of anger right now.
Yeah, you and I have both known Brian for quite a few years now, and you can hear it in his voice. He is not happy because for all that hard work to Go up in a first lap accident is really, really cruel, but that is the twists and turns of auto racing. There's no doubt about that. Again, Colton Herta, though, the leader here with a great pass and an interested spectator, and one guy that certainly has a lot of interest in the career of that young man, Colton Herta, standing by with Ryan Marine.
Yeah, certainly a vested interest on the point of George Michael Steinbrenner. You were watching that start with the rest of us, and tell us about what was going through your head as your driver and friend, Colton Herta, was able to make that move.
It was a good move. I think they were being a little safe there, just making sure not to touch each other. He made a good move on the outside of Pato, and it's good to be out in front once the yellow came out. He'll be looking, hopefully he keeps the tires warm, get a good restart, and hopefully he and Pato can have fun out there, tail around each other, and hopefully not have too much fun, but have enough fun where we can get a nice 1-2 finish.
We've talked a lot about Colton's development from year 1 to year 2. What about yours in the team ownership role? Much more comfortable do you feel now walking around this paddock with a year under your belt?
I certainly feel a lot more confident. There's a lot, I know a little bit more. There's less stress when the race starts. It's just learn a lot from Michael and from JF Thorman and Brian Herta and the team ownership side and how to run a team. And I don't think I could be in a better spot at Andretti, and they teach me everything I need to know, and they give me every resource that we can go out there and give Colton a car to win a race. And so it gives me confidence going forward that I'm starting to learn what I need to know, and just as Colton is, and we can eventually grow together in the sport, and I can get where I want to be in racing the Indy 500.
We'll let you get back to it. George Michael Steinbrenner, one of the co-owners of Andretti Steinbrenner Racing. Down pit road now to Rob Howden.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. You know, the roller coaster of emotion, this roller coaster of a weekend for Aaron Teelis. You think about this young driver who won here last year, bookended the year with a couple of victories, one up here, of course, St. Petersburg, then one at the finale at Watkins Glen. He comes into a new season with so much momentum, so much confidence, puts the car on pole, and he had to believe he was going to have a tremendous weekend here, potentially a sweep of the races to take the point lead as we head to Barber Motorsports Park. But as we know, that's not how the storyline unfolded. I went over to have a quick chat with Aaron as he was kind of watching that replay up on the big screen. And when you saw the in-car camera from Victor Franzoni, Aaron was able to see that, and the look on his face obviously just shook his head, knowing it was the opening lap. Why would that happen? Why would you have contact like that? And for him, of course, the team right there, John Bruner was the first man to meet him when he came out of the AMR safety truck, just to say, you know what, guy, you're here, you're our driver, we're with you. You know, Nick Yeoman, it's just tough. This game of motorsports, and all you guys, Anders, you can talk about it as well. It is unbelievably crazy sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly is. That is motorsports, but the good news is the accident cleaned up, and we're going back to racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Colton Herta got warned by race control to be easy on the early acceleration. He's going to have to get on it, though, because he's under pressure from Pato O'Ward. O'Ward jumps to the outside. He gets his right front tire alongside. They're going to go side by side through turn number 2. O'Ward up and over the curbing. They do not make contact. I don't know how they didn't crash, Jake Clary. Colton Herta leads them out of 3.
Now Pato O'Ward is going to go to his outside as they move into turn number 4. Herta has to get on the brakes. Pato O'Ward back to the lead with Herta just behind him. Santi Urrutia running in 3rd, and Shelby Blackstock just behind him. Now through turn number 5 and turn number 6, O'Ward holds off Colton Herta. It's about a 2-car length separation. What a move by Pato O'Ward to get back to the front.
Patricio O'Ward, winner yesterday, now leads once again today. Called a 2-car length advantage over Colton Herta. Meanwhile, further back, Neil Alberico, a move around Dalton Kellett. Give a call out to Shelby Blackstock, up 4 spots from the start here today.
Dalton Kellett moving to the right to allow his teammate Ryan Norman to get past. And now it looks like Franzoni's going to pop to the outside to get around Dalton Kellett as well. But Anders Crow, what an unbelievably aggressive move. But Pato O'Ward, it all pays off as he takes the lead.
And this is mental warfare right now. You saw what Colton Herta did on the opening lap by going to the outside. He wanted to make a statement. He wanted to say, I've got the mental edge on you, my friend, Pato O'Ward. But then Pato responded right away with the same exact move and then made it stick into turn 4. So all this is right now is about the mentality of these two drivers wanting to show that they are the superior driver mentally and on track. And I think what the Andretti crew needs to be telling these guys on the radio right now is that it's a long championship, and if you take each other out this early in the season, someone like a Santi Urrutia can really pounce on that. And that's what typically happens when you have two teammates that are so competitive, fighting tooth and nail, is that, yeah, you don't end up just winning a bunch of races, but you actually end up taking points away from each other because you fight so hard. So I think these guys need to settle down a little bit early on and just kind of get settled here, because otherwise they'll give up a lot of points.
Well, that was pretty amazing, though, when they went side by side through turn number 2. Very similar to what we saw at the start of the race with Victor Franzoni and Aaron Telis, that obviously ended in shards of carbon fiber everywhere. Those drivers were able to side by side, and Pato O'Ward with the drag race down to turn number 3 was able to take the lead. So now it's O'Ward by about 2 or 3 car lengths. I'll tell you what, Jake Ware, give Colton Herta some credit. He may have lost the lead, but he is not going away. He's continuing to stock that 27 car.
Yeah, he's going exactly where it is that O'Ward goes. Now, Pato O'Ward is starting to drift out just a little bit on that main straight, but then once they get in there around Pioneer Park, Colton Herta starts to shrink it back in a little bit, about a 2 car length or so advantage right now for O'Ward. They work their way around Pioneer Park and then come up with that water on their left-hand side, the Mahaffey Theater on their right. The lead stays the same.
Got to think Colton Herta perhaps conserving his tires, especially on this warmer day today, but still about 2.5 car lengths back. Santi Urrutia, then it's the 3 of Shelby Blackstock, the 2, the Pelfrey cars running 4 and 5, rather, but Neil Alberico bringing up the rear.
Steve Wittich, any reason to think that these two aren't going to be battling up front for race wins and ultimately the championship all year long?
No, definitely not. I spent quite a bit of time with both these guys in the preseason test at Homestead, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts that these two are going to push each other all year. And it's really O'Ward's first chance to have a full season in Indy Lights, and he knows how lucky he is to have that, and it's he's going to push hard. And then Colton knows he needed to grow up a little bit over the off season, and he's more patient. Colton Herta this year, so it'll be interesting to watch. You know, they're both young, so youth usually wins out over wiseness, but we're going to have to watch.
That green and white of Pato O'Ward and the navy blue and white of Colton Herta streak towards day first in turn 10.
I would say he separated himself just another car length and a half or so. Meanwhile, Urrutia 3rd, then it's Blackstock, then it's Alberico, Ryan Norman, and Victor Franzoni. Looks like Alberico may be hanging, or at least holding up those 2 at the rear of the field.
Yeah, Victor Franzoni, one of those drivers involved in the early accident, going to try to charge his way back to the front. Again, Anders, there's Santi Urrutia, had a very quiet second place finish yesterday. Right now, the 2 Andretti teammates kind of streaking away from him, but Santi Urrutia is a guy that he kind of needs to have a nice, quiet, efficient start.
He does, but the crazy thing is these 2 Andretti teammates have pulled out an almost 4-second advantage over Santi Urrutia in just a matter of 3 laps, so clearly the advantage they have right now is significant. But I think completely agree with you. Santi Urrutia, what he didn't do last year was when he was a little bit off pace, he would stuff it in the barrier or he would take a risk that was too big. But I think now he's in a very good position. If he comes out of St. Petersburg with two podium finishes, it's the best weekend he's ever had at St. Petersburg. And that means a lot to him because he's been so close to winning this Indy Lights Championship for the last 2 years. So coming out of here with 2 podium finishes for him, it's going to be like a win.
Working lap 8 of 40. Dave first, things starting to pick up towards the rear of the field.
Ryan Norman took a look to the inside of Neil Alberico, thought better of it, but he's definitely closing in on that Pelfrey car.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we saw this quite a bit yesterday, Anders. The guys at the front of the field started to streak away, but towards the rear of the field, things seem to be pretty even.
Yeah, they are very even, and Ryan Norman and Neil Alberico had this great battle yesterday that we were watching, and for Neil Alberico, I spoke to him a bit yesterday, and he said, yeah, we're really just struggling at the moment with getting the car to suit me and my driving style. He said that they had a lot of understeer, and as I saw him going into turn 1 there, that's certainly not the case anymore, but a little bit of a snap oversteer on entering that then leads to an understeer, so still a little bit of a handful for him, but I can only imagine how difficult it's got to be out of a car for 3-4 months and then jump in with a team you've never been with before. You don't quite know the lingo that they're speaking, that the engineers are speaking, as we have a yellow and Colton Herta in the wall.
Colton Herta, the American driver running in second, has put that number 98 machine up against the barrier left side. Heavy damage as the left front tire has been sheared off. I can only assume this is going to bring out a full course yellow as Colton Herta who was running second at the time yesterday, came home with a third-place finish. A race-ending accident that appears to be around Pioneer Park, where, yeah, we can see now that the field being told to be slow down. A heavy hit, and Anders, we're getting a good shot. That's a pretty solid hit for Colton Herta. His day most certainly done here at St. Pete.
Yeah, that's on the exit of turn 8, and that's a very easy place to do that mistake right there, is to carry a bit too much speed in turn 8, and if you miss the apex, there's a big compression and a big camber in the middle of that corner that grips up, and if you miss it by just a few inches and you're carrying a couple of miles an hour too much, it'll send you right into the wall. And I'm guessing, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I'm guessing he was just pushing so hard to try and catch up to Pato Ward instead of sitting back and being a little bit patient. So shame to see Herta out that early, and here we're getting another view of it. And yeah, just way too wide there coming off the corner and yeah, into the barrier.
Boy, and Steve Wittich, I mean, this was a point you were just making. We kind of were hoping to see a more mature, from a racecraft standpoint. Colton Herta, very mature young man, very impressive when you talk to him. But from a racecraft standpoint, we wanted to see these mistakes minimized, and to have it pop up in race 2, it'll be awful frustrating for that young man.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. He knows that he needs to make less mistakes, and especially, he said, you know, when he's running up front. He told me that taking chances when you're running further back is not such a bad thing. When you're running up front, he needs to finish races, and he knows that that's what he needs to do. But you know, he's a race car driver, right, Anders? And race car drivers sometimes, you know, you think what you want to do, but you can't make it work.
Yeah, but the really difficult thing as well is someone can tell you all day long, hey, you need to stop making mistakes. Well, okay, how do I do that? So
Sure.
it's kind of an A plus B equals results, and so he can only focus on the factors that he can control, and kind of the end input or the end result you can't always control. So I think, you know, he probably heard it a lot last year, and I know I was one of the guys that kind of looked at it and said, yeah, if he just calms down a bit next year, he'll be a championship candidate. And but it's another thing applying that, and very tricky track here. It's a bit green. The track's a bit green from the rain that we had last night, so definitely going offline is going to hurt that even more. So shame to see him out, but knowing how strong he was at other tracks like Mid Ohio, Indy Road Course, all that, I know he'll be back strong.
A very dejected Colton Herta, Rob Houghton, has climbed into the AMR IndyCar safety team vehicle, where they'll take him back to pit lane. His day most certainly done as that car being put on the hook to take back to the paddock.
Yeah, we'll get a hold of Colton when he does get back here to pit lane, but I had a quick chat with Doug Sister, his engineer, and he said that Colton wasn't really saying anything on the radio at all that the car was having any trouble, but in that opening lap kind of chaos that we saw, they did say that one of the engineers potentially saw a bent wishbone on the car, and if indeed there was some kind of damage to the car from that opening lap contact, that would have made it tougher, of course, for Colton to drive it. But again, no indication on the radio that he was struggling, but if there was that bent wishbone, there could definitely have been a little bit of an issue for him.
And Anders, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember seeing anything, but as aggressive as he and Pato O'Ward were at the initial start and then on the restart, that's certainly possible.
It is a possibility. They had a slight touch, but as strong as these Dallara IL-15s are built, I mean, they're bouncing off the concrete walls, and they're good for the most part. I think probably what the bigger risk is, as far offline as both of them were, it wouldn't be a huge surprise if they just picked up something, some debris or something that would have put a small sliver in the tire. I think that's probably a bigger likelihood, because I doubt something would have been from the slight contact that they had. But yeah, great shame to see him. But yeah, Steve Wittich just pointed out here in the on the timing stat, Shelby Blackstock up into third here in his return to Indy Lights. That's great for him.
And I'll tell you what, Steve, I mean, for that Team Pelfrey deal, for both of those drivers, Shelby Blackstock and Neil Alberico, as of right now, it's a one-race weekend deal. A third and fourth place finish as of right now could go a long way for those drivers securing a future with that team.
Yeah, it really does. It's that's an impressive performance by that team, the Gary Neal-led team. They just put the deals together in the last week for both those drivers. I know they want to continue, but that's always contingent on funding. And it'll be interesting to see. They've got some time off before Barber to try and find a little bit of funding, and I think both of them might try just race by race. Let's see how it goes. And right now, you know, Blackstock's sitting third in points. You know, it's early, but if you're sitting third in points, it's hard not to go to the next race.
I tell you one thing, if Shelby Blackstock's on the podium this weekend, he's going to Barber. Take that to the bank.
Well, and that's his home race too, right?
Exactly.
So it's, yeah, I kind of expected him to show up there no matter what, but if he's on the podium here, yeah, that makes it a lot easier for him to go find the money.
Well, with 2 full-course yellows in this race, more than likely this is going to be turned into a timed event. In fact, on some of the monitors we have, they're already showing the clock instead of lap numbers, which gives me a good idea of that's probably where we're headed, Anders, as the clock now ticks underneath.
Yeah, and obviously the IndyCar race is coming up in just a short little bit, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we go to that. But still 30 minutes remaining in this. There's still so much that can happen. Yeah, exactly. and I mean, it's a bit crazy because usually you see all the craziness unfold in the first race of the season. Everyone's coming out, everyone wants to show who they are, but it was weird. Yesterday's race was a bit subdued, and today we're unleashing the craziness.
So with the carnage, we still do have 7 cars out on the racetrack, and here's how they run as we're getting set to go back to green flag action here on the streets of St. Pete. It is Pato O'Ward, who's the pole sitter, lost the lead on the initial start, but got it back. Santi Urrutia runs second. The teammates of Shelby Blackstock and Neil Alberico run third and fourth. Ryan Norman is up in fifth. Victor Franzoni, who was involved in the early accident, runs sixth. Dalton Kellett runs seventh. Those 7 drivers hard on the accelerators out of turn number 14 as we are back to racing here at St. Pete. Really good jump by Pato O'Ward as he's going to distance himself by 3 or 4 car lengths. That will hold Santi Urrutia at bay. Further back, Ryan Norman entertained making the move on Neil Alberico, but Jake Query, after all the action and carnage, everybody playing it safe on this restart.
Norman has a pair of those Pelfrey cars just in front of him. He is trying to get that 4th position, and to do so would have to clear Neil Alberico, but not able to do so. Everybody single file minding their P's and Q's through turns 5 and turn 6. But the guy up front, it looks just like yesterday. A little more sun splash than a day ago, Dave First, but the guy running up front in Pato O'Ward, just like yesterday's running.
Just thinking the same thing. The sun shining down on Patricio O'Ward. Call it a 6-car length advantage as they move their way through turn 10. That left-hander dipping their left side tires along that red and white curbing as they make their way now towards turns 11 and 12 here at St. Pete.
Anders Pato was quick on the accelerator on that start. As much action as he saw and was a part of at the start of this race, he was taking no chances at the beginning.
He wasn't taking any chances, but the guy that's going to be taking even less chances is the guy in second, Santi Urrutia. You can see he wanted nothing of it going into turn 1. He just completely relaxed, and I think you're going to see the same tale during the course of this season. Santi Urrutia is probably going to do as little as he possibly has to secure another podium finish today and just come out of this weekend with solid points. So as far as I'm concerned, I think Pato O'Ward really has a pretty straightforward job at hand, especially Ryan Norman trying to pop here on Neil Alberico. He's clearly got the pace and a good run out of 1, but can't quite get the job done.
Yeah, that's easily the best battle on the racetrack as it's O'Ward, Urrutia, and Blackstock. Those are the front 3 as they've distanced themselves a little bit. And then you've got Neil Alberico, who's holding up that train just a bit. Ryan Norman sitting in 5th, Victor Franzoni in 6th, and they're running down Alberico, Dave.
We'll see if Norman can make a move on Alberico. Not that time. In fact, didn't even look to the inside that time around. Alberico, it's a battle for 4th. Norman's 5th, Franzoni 6th, Dalton Kellett 7th.
We saw these 2 battle quite a bit yesterday as Ryan Norman at the end of the race of race number 1 got a good run on Neil Alberico into turn number 1 and was able to take a position away. Similar situation today as Norman tries to run down Alberico. Not close enough, but the problem, Jake Query, is Ryan Norman can't only worry about catching Neil Alberico. He's got his hands full with 6th place running Victor Franzoni.
Yeah, Franzoni is right on the heels of that machine of Ryan Norman trying to get into the 5th position. Norman is going to go where Alberico does, but that allows again for Franzoni to close in. Big gap back before you get to Dalton Kellett at the rear of the field. The leaders, as that group works their way through turn number 5, already now clearing turn number 7. Pato O'Ward again coming into the view for Dave.
Pato O'Ward is effectively checked out on this race. So once again, Santi Urrutia is 2nd. Then it's Shelby Blackstock. I almost feel like Victor Franzoni is happy to watch what happens in front of him, waiting for someone to make a mistake. But as he does that, Shelby Blackstock continues to gap this field a little bit for 3rd.
Well, Dave, I've been paying attention to the onboard video of Victor Franzoni, and he's just struggling. Whenever he gets that dirty air from Ryan Norman, he struggles to keep up, and I think that may be because the Juncos Racing team may have oversprung his car, gone a little bit too stiff on the springs, and what that means is percentage-wise you lose more grip when you're behind a car in dirty air. So I think that's just looking at the behavior of the car as he gets too close to Ryan Norman, that seems to be what's happening. So they're probably going to be kicking themselves a bit here, thinking, yeah, we should have gone a bit softer for the track.
Of course, the Indy Light Series presented by Cooper Tires is the top rung on the Mazda Road to Indy ladder that provides opportunities for young drivers to make their way up all the way to the Verizon IndyCar Series with scholarship prizes and rides to compete in the following season. And Rob Howden, we've kicked off the season with some pretty good USF 2000 and Pro Mazda races this weekend, and you're standing by with a gentleman who's already taken home a trophy.
Nick, as we do at our Indy Lights broadcast, get the chance to introduce the IndyCar Radio Network listeners to the up-and-coming stars of the Mazda Road to Indy. I'm with Kyle Kirkwood, who scored a win in his debut USF 2000 race. Kyle, you know, you come into an event like this. I know you watched your good friend Oliver Askew do it last year, a good finish in race 1. He won race 2 and then went on a 5-win streak. You come out of the box and win your very first race. You got one up on Oliver, but give me some emotion right now that you're feeling. You have another race later on today, but how did it feel to win that race for you?
Yeah, it felt amazing. Nothing really settled in, I think, till last night when I was sitting in my hotel room, because it's just so much emotion being here at the St. Pete Grand Prix. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next race tomorrow, obviously coming off that great win yesterday.
You're obviously a Florida boy, so great to win here at St. Petersburg. How does this win kind of change your mindset? Of course, I asked the same thing to Oliver last year. You come in with a certain expectation of what you're trying to do, whether it's a couple of podiums or top 5s or whatever it may be. You know, with K Motorsports, you're thinking victory as well. Does it change your expectations, your approach for today's race?
A little bit, yeah. Coming into yesterday, we didn't really have much expectation, but for today, now we know that the car's quick. We know we can pull away with a good lead if we get out front. So coming in today, I think we're going to try and do the same exact thing, get the lead and try and pull away. And maybe if there's some cautions here and there, we know how to do the cautions because we had one yesterday. So everything worked out perfectly. We're going to try and do the same thing as we did yesterday.
How does it feel to walk around the IndyCar paddock? You're a race winner right now. People know who you are. Your name's up on the top of the charts. We're talking about you on the radio. A little air of more confidence maybe walking through here?
Yeah, for sure. It helps. It helps for sure. Considering that we won yesterday, coming around here, seeing all the IndyCar drivers. Actually, this race going on is absolutely amazing. Now I'm sitting here down at pit lane just watching the race, trying to get a little bit of pointers for myself with the way Patricio Ward passed going down into turn 4, was it? And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the race.
Good run yesterday.
Thank you so much.
Nick Yeoman, a guy to watch out for. Again, that is Kyle Kirkwood from Cape Motorsports, and he is watching this race intently. And he finds a little more strategy, a couple moves he can make if he gets dropped down to second in the race this afternoon.
Yep, no doubt about it, a guy to watch. And Ryan Marine, you're standing by with one that is always fun to watch in the month of May. No full-time ride this year for Carlos Munoz, but boy, I'm excited to see how that young man does back with Andretti Autosport at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Me too, Nick, that's for sure. Carlos, it's a shame we don't see you in IndyCar full-time at this point, but you're back with Andretti Autosport for the month of May of the Indianapolis 500. I know you've come awfully close there a few times and expressed a great deal of confidence that that's a race that you're going to win before your career is said and done. How excited are you to be reunited with this Andretti Autosport bunch that really helped ignite your career?
Yeah, like you said, you know, it's a little bit different for me to be here and watching the races in Peter. I've been coming here for 5 years in a row racing. This time a little bit different, but you know, I think it's great to be back to Andretti. I think they give me a great opportunity to be in the 500 in a great car. You know? I mean, like you said, really close to winning it. And in this sport or any sport, what it matters is to win. I think I have the tools to win it. I think I have the talent, and this year I have a great car. I think a great teammates to work with. So super happy, you know, to be in the Indy 500 for sure. We are working really hard to get back to a full season. That's my goal for next year, or even to do more races this year. But you know, for right now, my focus is in the 500, and hopefully we will go in there and win.
So what are you doing then in terms of trying to secure the backing that you need to accomplish that goal of being back on the grid on a more regular basis?
You know, it's always the same problem for all the drivers. You just to find the sponsors right, you know. And I think we're gonna have a great sponsor for the 500. Hopefully we have a good result. We continue, but we are working not to depend on the result of the 500. So to have more races. Working next year, right? A good sponsor to represent the team of Colombian. So we'll see what we got. So right now, just to focus on the 500. I've been working really hard. I'm training the car the whole time. So you know, physically you need to work really hard.
How important is it to be with your team here this weekend, even though you're not in the race car?
I think it's great. You know, I feel like family. I've been with them for a long time, so I know all the people around, all the mechanics, all the engineers. So I have a great relationship. So it's not like I'm new in the team. I need to get used. Right away I was like back again home. So that helps a lot, right? With Michael, but I think it's important to feel part of the team, to know what is, to have the sense of racing, because I'm home the whole time. And now I miss racing. At least I get out of that sensation a little bit coming here. Also talking to people, to sponsor from the team is great, So just doing a little bit, like you say, marketing work there. That now that you have to. So it's great to be back here. I have one more still to prepare for the World Indy 500.
We're looking forward to seeing you back in an IndyCar in the month of May. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for being here, and good luck.
I'd appreciate that, Ryan Marine. And Anders, I know Carlos Munoz is at a disadvantage, no longer being full-time in IndyCar, and I know the cars have changed a little bit. Man, he's back with Andretti Autosport, who's won the last 2 Indy 500s. He's on my short list of guys to watch as favorites for that race because he has that place figured out.
Well, don't forget, he wasn't full-time IndyCar driver when he finished second in his rookie appearance. I mean, granted, he was doing Indy Lights at the time, but the guy lives and breathes for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and every time he goes on track, I mean, he basically invented the below-the-apron line, through all the corners, and people just holding their breath saying, oh, eventually he's going to end up crashing. He never does. He's just an absolute beast at that track, and I think seeing him back with Andretti Autosport there is going to be great. They have such great chemistry. Obviously, Andretti always have a great track at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and so I think he'll get right up to speed, and he'll feel at home within 2 laps.
I remember telling people in his rookie year, after watching him in practice, as you mentioned, putting the left side tires below the apron. I thought, boy, he's fast, but there is no way he can do that for 200 laps. And Steve, lo and behold, he ends up second, was second a few years ago when Alexander Rossi won the 500. I mean, that kid is awful impressive. We saw him win a lot of races and be competitive Indy Lights as well. A very talented young Colombian driver.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's out of the series full time. And going back to, the turn 1 in Indianapolis, every day during happy hour, I go down to the very end of the VIP suite stands and stand up at the top and watch from up there. And it was just like, at that point, Anders Ray, he was the only one down there. Yeah. And now every time, more and more and more drivers are finding that line. And I'm assuming that Andretti has found a way to help him out, to help him make that line work for himself. And it'll be interesting to see, like Anders said, new car this year.
Yeah, but the crazy thing about turn 1, not to take away the focus from St. Petersburg here, but the biggest thing about turn 1 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway rather is that the balance changes so much as soon as you go over that white line. The car frees up so tremendously, so you have to open up your hands and just let the car do the work. And it's tricky, and actually, somewhat along the same lines, it's not dissimilar turn 1 at St. Pete, even though it's 2 completely different applications, but it's the same thing in that you're going over those huge white landing strips here as you go into turn 1, and that really changes the balance of the car, and you have to open up your hands and let the car settle on the way into the corner.
No doubt about it, the month of May is going to be a lot of fun as the Verizon IndyCar Series competes in the 102nd Indianapolis 500, and of course on Carb Day, the annual Freedom 100, one of the most fun broadcasts we do all year long. 17 and a half minutes to go here in Indy Lights race number 2. Pato Award's lead over Santi Urrutia is 4.1 seconds. Shelby Blackstock runs in third, 9 seconds back. Then you've got Neil Alberico, who continues to get harassed by Ryan Norman as they battle for that 4th spot. Victor Franzoni runs in 6th. Dalton Kellett is 7th. Out of the race, Colton Herta will finish 8th today, and Aaron Telis is 9th. Well, we've been talking about guys that have run at Indy Lights and are going to be competing in one-off efforts at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Rob Houghton, you're standing by with another one on pit lane here at St.
Yeah, I've got one of the newest entries into the Indy 500, Connor Daly. Connor, it's been an up and down off season for you. Obviously, an incredible journey, you and Alexander Rossi on the Amazing Race. You come home to news that you lost your ride, which of course having to deal with that disappointment, but then spin that right off onto a new program with Tom Burns Racing and Air Force Racing. Give me your thoughts. You know what, the roller coaster of emotion you've had to go through, and now winning the most popular driver as well.
Yeah, I mean, quite a roller coaster indeed. I mean, winning the most popular driver thing, that meant a lot to me. I mean, to see how many people, retweeted it and pushed it out there and actually cared, is really cool. I don't know what message it sends, if anything, but it meant a lot. So, to now be here, to be a part of, Tom Burns Racing and Dale Point Racing, it's
know, the life of a driver, again, ups and downs, that will push you as a person as well. And I think you've gone through a lot of things in the off season. You know, you're really dedicated to your health and your fitness, and you're just focusing on putting a program together. Like any driver, you're not going to stop quitting, trying to get back here full time into the Verizon IndyCar Series. But talk about the growth that you think you've gone through over the last, let's say, 6 months.
Well, I'm going to write a book someday, and it's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be hilarious. And you're going to all be like, what in the world is going on with this guy's life? Because it has been quite a ride. And I'm still here, and I'm still going to bother everyone every single weekend because that's my MO. And I'll be hanging around for as long as I can. And, you know, obviously, I'm going to try to continue to work on the business side, continue to try and put things together because I'm not going away. I still have things to prove here, and I know I can do it. And there are people in this sport that know that I can. And I'm excited to be ready for that chance.
Another year's passed, going to the 500. How is your approach going to be different? You know, every year is another learning experience for you. How much more confident, how much more prepared will you be this year?
I think we'll be very prepared. I mean, obviously, it'll be tough because I haven't been in a car in 6 months, but it's still the Indy 500. We still have a week of practice. You know, we've got a great team with Dale Coyne, and I'm excited. I mean, there's been a lot that's happened to me in that race, and it's been all over the place. So I just want to try and get through one where, you know, just something normal happens, or you just kind of have a good day. So we'll see. I mean, it's exciting. I feel prepared for it. I feel more confident every year going there. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of cars, and that's going to be really, really cool.
We all look forward to seeing you at the Speedway in May.
Thank you so much.
Nick Yeoman, there's Connor Daly back at the 500 for another year.
I'm looking forward to seeing Connor back in a car, and looking forward to reading that book that he says he's going to write. Anders, I know that young man probably have a lot of stories he can tell.
I will read that thing cover to cover probably 4 or 5 times. No, I love Connor Daly to bits, and so glad to see that he's got a ride for the 500, and hope that he has a solid month of May. And he is pretty spot on when he says he's had some topsy-turvy stuff there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Looking up at the timing screen now, I'm actually pretty impressed with Shelby Blackstock. Yeah, he's turning laps within a half a tenth of Santi Urrutia. And again, I keep coming back to the fact that he's been out of the car for so long, and to just come right back and run in podium contention now 30 laps into this race, and still physically be okay, still mentally be okay, still being sharp and not making mistakes, that's mighty impressive. It really is.
I'll tell you what, Steve, Neil Alberico's done a nice job as well. I mean, he was just hounded by Ryan Norman for about 5 or 6 laps, and now finally looks like he's been able to put a little breathing room between he and that 48 machine.
Yeah, it's been similar with Neil. I don't think he's been in a car since you know, the last race of the year. And I know he's spent a lot of time in the Philippines. He's kind of embraced his Filipino heritage recently, and he was telling me about he goes to visit his grandmother who lives on an island with only 1,000 people.
Wow.
No TV, nothing, and he loves it. And it's something that he'd never done before. And you know, it's something that I think fans would love to get to know that side of Neil. It's a very different side of Neil, and you know, it talks about why his personality is why it is. If you know Filipino people, they're kind of laid back, and Neil sometimes needs a push, and I think he's finally getting a bit of that push, and I think probably being out of the car and not having a ride has done a lot to help push him to be a little bit more aggressive, and you're right, he's turning great lap times right now.
That is, of course, the voice of Steve Wittich, who joins Anders Krohn and I here in the broadcast booth. Indy Lights action from the streets of St. Petersburg. 12 minutes to go. And Pato Award is still the leader. Steve, we had your good buddy Tony DeZino in the booth yesterday. Both of you guys covered motorsports for Trackside Online this weekend. Give fans that don't know an idea of what you guys are doing with Trackside Online and where they can check it out.
Well, if you want IndyCar coverage is on tracksideonline.com. It's a subscription news service that it's $22 a year. We hope you find it worthwhile. We try and cover the stuff that no one else covers. Everyone sort of covers the same thing. We'll go and find out, hey, why did the guy finish 10th when he was running 5th? That's the type of stuff we do. And then with our ladder coverage, a TSO ladder presented by Cooper Tires. We had Cooper Tires come on this year to help us out, which we really appreciate. That's free to read. It's at tsoladder.com. And you can subscribe there to get the news to your inbox as well. But we love having everybody join us at the track, and we try and add a little bit of color to our updates. You know, we stayed on a boat this weekend, so we kind of had some updates from that. And it's been a fun weekend here.
Some of the stuff you teased to me about covering the Indy Lights Series, talking about our leader, Pato Award, and the relationship and the team that he's now running for Andretti Autosport, some of the numbers with that organization.
Yeah, as I got to Homestead 2 weeks ago at testing, I walk up and down pit road during the first lights, practice it, I go, okay, here's the engineer. I know all the engineers, and I get and they were the very last car, and I'm like, oh wait, there's an engineer I don't know. So I went to Rob Edwards, the team manager, and I asked, okay, who's this engineer? And he told me his name was Mark Bryant, and as we know, Andretti has a relationship now with the Australian supercars team, Walkinshaw Racing. Well, Mark came from Walkinshaw Racing. Doesn't have a ton of open wheel engineering experience, but they wanted to bring him over here to kind of open up his eyes and also to bring a fresh perspective to what they're doing with Indy Lights. You know, they've got guys like Doug Zister and Len Pascas and Joe D'Agostino at that team who, I mean, they can help him get the baseline, but then he's going to add something that no one else has seen, which is an interesting approach, and it's obviously working.
I was going to say, Anders, I mean, first weekend for him, first full-time season now for Pato O'Ward, and boy, it seems like those boys prepared to go 2 for 2 here with under 10 minutes to go for safety.
Yeah, and he just set the fastest lap of the race as well to add to that, so he's clearly finding a very good rhythm, and the biggest thing right now is for him not to be disrupted and not to start relaxing, because oftentimes.
Let's go to Jake Query.
Pato O'Ward, just as you were saying, that overshot turn number 4, that allows Santi Urrutia to get by. That car now is under power. He's right in the middle of the turn, and that Team Pelfrey duo narrowly missed getting around him. And Pato O'Ward, just when he had a 5-second lead now, has come to a complete stop. Dalton Kellett, the back of the field, gets by. Pato O'Ward is stalled, just exiting turn number 4.
Holy smokes, if you're up front today, it is a bad spot as Santi Urrutia has now inherited the lead with 9 minutes to go. And Anders, Jake's right, that car it's dead in the water there at the exit of that corner.
No idea what happened, and I was just saying as he gets it going there, that he's in such a good rhythm right now that he doesn't want to disrupt that by starting to relax, even though he's got such a big gap. So it'd be interesting to see if he was actually over pushing or if he was a little bit too relaxed maybe, or if there was something mechanical going on with the car.
Jake Query, that is unbelievable. The leader goes from the front of the field to the tail.
Merely an observational conjecture here, but it appeared as though he simply overshot the turn. Then in realizing it and getting his car turned around, I think he knew that trying to get back in was going to cause a problem with Santi Urrutia at full song going into the turn. He let up just a bit. I think that stalled the engine. Then he had to wait, let everyone pass, and then finally got fired back up again. That's at least how it appeared from up here looking down on it. But I can only imagine that feeling in the cockpit sitting for Pato O'Ward and watching that entire field go by.
Anders, you're in agreement, and that was a very, very dangerous. I mean, it was very close with those Pelfrey cars.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a terrible feeling because you want to get going to not lose as much track position as possible, so you want to try and hold that. But yeah, he was lucky there, and it was actually good heads-up driving for Shelby Blackstock to not drive into the side of Pato, but man, that's so easy to do, and it's so difficult to get these things turned around when the rear tires are hot. It's difficult to get the tires to spin and get the car spun around again. So very, very easy to stall it there. And then, as Jake rightly said, he then had to slow down for Santi Urrutia, who was coming. So yeah, what a disaster.
Joel Sebastianelli, he led 27 laps today. Pato O'Ward now buried down in 7th position.
Yeah, we may not know the whole story until we actually get a chance to talk to Pato after the race. Same thing for the crew, too. I was watching their reaction in the pit stall when it happened. They were in utter disbelief, shaking their heads. And when you asked what happened, same response, not a verbal response, just shaking the head. So it would seem as though everything Jake said, he had a bird's eye view right there. It seemed to be what happened, caught everybody by surprise.
And Steve Wittich, think about this for Bilardi Auto Racing. I don't want to hand the win to Santi Urrutia because Lord knows I just about did for Pato O'Ward and we saw what happened. But from tears to joy in victory lane if Santi Urrutia is able to salvage what's been a very disappointing weekend for them.
They have had a rough weekend. They had a lot of repair work on Santi's car after an incident he had in turn 3, and then obviously we know what happened with Tielitz. And Santi's hasn't been overly happy with his car all weekend, but like Anders said before, he's definitely matured, and he knows he needs to just take what the car gives him, and it appears that's what he's done this weekend, and it's going to pay off for him. The old Santi might have pushed too hard and made a mistake, and that could have been, 6th, 7th place finish. He could end up with the win this year.
100%, and it's exactly this that you need to take advantage of. The weekends when you're the weakest, that's when you win the championship. It's not the weekends when you're the strongest. So Santi Urrutia is probably going to take a page out of this book later on in the season and say, hey, remember that weekend when we were struggling? Yeah, that ended up being a pretty good weekend because we kept our heads on straight. But also, I mean, now for Neil Alberico and Shelby Blackstock, Team Pelfrey didn't think they were going to be on the grid until Monday this week, and here they are with a potential double podium finish on their hands.
Rob, I thought yesterday's Verizon IndyCar Series knockout qualifying was one of the most wild and bizarre things I've ever seen, but go ahead and throw this Indy Lights race right up there with it, buddy.
Well, you know, I'm down here with the Team Pelfrey guys, and they just have these devilish grins on their faces like, I cannot believe what's happening. You've got to be kidding me. And again, I talked to Gary Neal. He's like, it's not over yet. It's not over. But the devilish grins are there. They're watching this unfold. Yeah, they're setting up to have a couple of podiums here today.
And Jake Query, we may have a battle in our hands for second and third as Neil Alberico chasing down Shelby Blackstock to turn 3.
Yep, Blackstock with his teammate just behind him. Ryan Norman's not going to let them out of view. He's right there as well, should there be any sort of a hiccup. The leader, Santi Urrutia, has pretty much checked out on these 3. But again, as Rob Howden had mentioned, that's the podium you're looking at. Blackstock, and then just behind him, his teammate Neil Alberico. But Ryan Norman, Dave, is staying right there, as I mentioned, in case there's any problem with those Team Pelfrey cars.
I'll tell you, the last 10 minutes or so, Neil Alberico is slowly, I think, reeled in his teammate in Shelby Blackstock, making 2.5 car lengths as they make their way through turn number 10. Also, about 10 minutes ago, Ryan Norman brushed the outside wall coming out of turn 10. Apparently no damage, or if there was any, not enough to cause him to lose any spots, but that battle for second, it is definitely heating up here in St. Pete.
4 minutes to go, Anders Cronin. That's what you expect to see at the end of the race. These guys are pushing hard. Ryan Norman would love to score a podium here in St. Pete.
Yeah, and I think he's smelling blood now because he can see that he's quicker than these two, so he's just got to try and find a way to get past them. And it's not easy around the streets of St. Petersburg, but it's definitely doable, and especially if he gets a good run off the final corner, that can set up a really good momentum for him. So he really hasn't looked like he has found that right place to really overtake her, where he's particularly much stronger than the two Bilardi or Pelfrey cars ahead, rather. Yeah, anything can happen.
Urrutia, Blackstock, Alberico, Ryan Norman, and Victor Franzoni, the top 5. Rob Howden?
Yeah, Nick, you and Anders and Steve as well, but obviously talking about the fact that we've always wanted Santi Urrutia to have that better start to the season. He's always had some issues. There's been times into the wall, just hasn't had the start he needs to get, out to that really good jump out of the gate. But Anders, can you believe this right now? Not a happy guy yesterday, even finishing where he did. There's a good possibility if we run the way we are now, he's going to head to Barber Motorsports Park with the point lead.
Yeah, exactly, and I think if he gets there with a bit of momentum and feeling like luck is on his side, I know there's a lot that goes into his mind as well, of feeling like he's got some unlucky breaks over the last couple of years. Well, he's just been gifted 2 huge lucky breaks over the last couple of days, despite their challenging start to the weekend. And if he goes to Barber Motorsports Park with the same exact mindset of not going for the win every single session, but just making every session as good as you possibly can and seeing where that takes you, that'll be the key.
And Steve, this is the amazing thing, because Santi Urrutia, we rolled off the trucks. He was down 5th, 6th, 7th fastest for the majority of this weekend. So again, to hammer home this point, for him to come home with 2 podium finishes and possibly a win here in the next 2.5 minutes is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's been, you talk to the team and they said all testing, all practice, it's been Aaron Telitz who's been leading the way and had the good car, and Urrutia they haven't been able to find out what he likes with the car this year, and it's, like Anders said, patience is going to pay off for him.
And I will say, to Aaron Telitz's credit, obviously he hasn't had the opportunity to show what he can do this weekend, and I bet you we'd be talking about him a lot more than we have been in the last couple of days, and I'm pretty certain he'd be fighting for wins. But Ryan Norman now getting very close there to Neil Alberico.
Ryan Norman, Jake Query, he wants that final step on the podium.
Absolutely does. Dave first, I think, was dead on it when he talked about Norman getting a little bit loose in turn 10, because the same happened exiting turn 3. I think what's happening is Ryan Norman, knowing that podium is right there so close in front of him with Neil Alberico in sight, is simply pushing any chance he can when he knows he's got a straight to try to get some speed. Dave, it might have cost him just for a split second in turn number 10, but he's going to try it again here on Neil Alberico.
He's going to try. He's about 3 car lengths. Now make it 2 as he does close in on Neil Alberico. Again, Shelby Blackstock leads that trio. Shelby eyeing just his second podium in some 2.5 years, Nick Yeoman.
Meanwhile, the white flag is out for Santi Urrutia. His lead on the previous lap was 11.9 seconds. All eyes, though, are going to be on that battle for second, third, and fourth as Shelby Blackstock has it. And now Neil Alberico, he's going to have to go on defense. Here comes Ryan Norman. He'll pop to the outside. They'll go side by side. Norman tries to duck to the inside. He makes contact with the right rear tire of Alberico. That's going to stall out that chance. Meanwhile, up front, though, Jake Query, Santi Urrutia, well on his way to a victory.
Urrutia with a huge advantage. All he has to do now is keep it clean in that Team Pelfrey combo of Blackstock, and then behind him Alberico will round out the podium. But Santi Urrutia on his way now to victory lane, Dave.
Santiago Urrutia might look around him and see success all around him. The Mahaffey Theater, those who performed there, the Salvador Dali Museum, about the $1 million yachts as well. Success is earned, maybe given a little luck here and there. Santiago Urrutia winning race number 2 here at St. Pete.
Out of turn 14, Santi Urrutia goes to victory lane. Shelby Blackstock coming through turn 14. He's going to come home with a career best second place finish, but Neil Alberico has a flat tire. Ryan Norman has a broken wing, but Norman gets around him, and Norman is going to come home in the third position. This is incredible as Alberico has to limp that car home. Anders, it's fitting. I mean, what a wild, wild race. Congratulations to Santi Urrutia, though, certainly.
Huge win there for Santi Urrutia, and boy, do I feel bad for Neil Alberico. Ryan Norman was trying to go for the high-low exiting turn 1 and just smashed into the back tire of Neil Alberico and punctured that tire. So you had damage for Ryan Norman, but he obviously gets it home third, and Neil Alberico had such a nice run all day long, staying out of trouble, and then to have that happen on the last lap when you're finally back in the car, that's devastating, absolutely devastating. But on the exact opposite of that, Santi Urrutia has got to be ecstatic. His first win ever in the streets of St. Petersburg.
Victory lane here in St. Petersburg, Florida for one very happy young man. Santi, congrats on the win. That was a wild race. Did you know about all the cars around you falling out?
No, I don't know. The only thing I know is that we win the race, so that's pretty good. We get the biggest point. That's what we have to do. If we want to win the championship, we have to be always right there. It's been a tough weekend for us, honestly, when I crashed on Friday, and then Valari guys put the car together, and they did an awesome job coming second yesterday and first today. So I have to say thank you to all of my sponsors, Valari, and all the fans who always come with me to the races.
As the winner of the Mazda Indy Lights Grand Prix of St. Petersburg presented by Cooper Tires, just talk about the competition level in this series, the Indy Lights Championship. How hard is it to win here?
Oh, it's going to be tough this year, you know, a lot of, like, we don't have a lot of drivers, but all the drivers that we have in the series got the chance to win, like big talented drivers, young drivers, so it's going to be tough this year. So how I said before, like, if we want to win the championship, we always have to be on the podium, so it's going to be a good year.
Round 2 winner here in 2018, Santiago Urrutia. Congrats.
Thank you.